In the sprawling world of Street Fighter, some characters strike fear, some inspire awe, and some simply terrify with their raw, unrelenting power. Today, we dive into two of the more unusual and polarizing figures in the series. Necalli, the savage soul-devouring beast from a lost era, and Seth, the cunning, artificial mastermind designed to surpass every fighter in existence. From the dark prophecies of ancient empires to the cold, clinical laboratories of S.I.N, these two represent extremes of ambition, hunger, and destruction. Join me as we unravel their stories and uncover the legacies of two of Street Fighter's most fascinating and often misunderstood antagonists. When Street Fighter V launched in 2016, Necalli was presented as something entirely different. An ancient feral being who emerged when the world was at its most chaotic. His presence was framed not as a simple fighter, but as an omen, the emissary of the gods, sent to consume the souls of the strongest warriors. Shrouded in a miasma of corruption, his very presence taints the spirit of those who come too close. Those touched by this foul energy are driven to mirror his hunger, compelled to seek out warriors and feed upon their essence. When his hunt begins, Necalli emerges wherever battle is at its fiercest. To witness him is to face a nightmare made flesh. Those who have seen him devouring souls speak of an overwhelming terror that leaves them frozen in place, powerless against his dreadful might. In Street Fighter V, Necalli's story begins in his prologue, Prophecy of Old. Narrated by the warrior prophet of the Aztecs, we are told that during the hour of battle, Necalli would rise to devour the souls of strong warriors. The one who agonizes to proceed on his path, the one who serves the god of fire, and the one who fills the world with destruction. Necalli then appears before the prophet himself, defeats him, and seems to literally consume him body and soul. In As Shadow Falls, Necalli becomes a recurring menace. Awakened as Shadaloo plans to plunge the world into chaos with its doomsday devices, the Black Moons, he hunts the likes of Ryu, Dalsim, Nash, and Bison, attempting to devour each of their souls. Yet despite his terrifying introduction, he fails at every turn. Against Ryu in particular, Necalli becomes a mirror of futility. Having embraced the power of nothingness, Ryu is no longer vulnerable to the Satsui no Hado. Dalsim explains that Necalli cannot devour a soul at peace, leaving Necalli with nothing to consume. Necalli's appearances in other Street Fighter V character stories only deepen fans' disillusionment with his supposed menace. In both Balrog's and Akuma's storylines, he emerges as little more than a side obstacle, defeated or dismissed with ease, undermining the aura of terror that first surrounded him. A potentially promising terror of the series had, by the end, become a cautionary tale of wasted potential. According to director Takayuki Nakayama, Necalli was intended as a physical embodiment of the Satsui no Hado, the same dark force that haunts Ryu and Akuma. He could appear in any era, his form shaped by the strength of darkness at the time. And yet, despite this grand intention, Necalli was largely rejected by fans. His feral personality and poor treatment in the story turned him from the devourer of souls into something closer to a punchline. As of today, Necalli is absent from Street Fighter VI. His mark on the series appears fleeting, a reminder of what happens when a character meant to embody eternal menace is instead written as an eternal failure. If Necalli was conceived as a beast of prophecy, then Seth was built as a weapon of ambition. Introduced in Street Fighter IV as the leader of S.I.N, the weapons and research division of the criminal organization Shadaloo, Seth was not human, but an artificial construct, one of many engineered replacement bodies for Bison, enhanced with something called the Tandon engine, a device designed to manipulate and absorb ki. Where Bison saw Seth as a vessel, Seth saw himself as something greater, a superior intelligence destined to overthrow his creator and rule the world. In The Ties That Bind, the animated prologue to Street Fighter IV, Seth makes his ambitions clear. He speaks of ultimate power, of surpassing human limits, of shaping the future through the Bliss Project, a plan to harvest the energy of the world's greatest fighters and turn it into a weapon. He became obsessed with Ryu and the Satsui no Hado, sending the double agent Sea Viper to track him down and retrieve the Wandering Warrior in order to complete the Bliss Project. Though she fails to capture him, she does retrieve valuable data, and later manages to orchestrate a battle between Ryu and Seth on an S.I.N. cruise ship. Ryu taps into the power of nothingness, however, and Seth is defeated. He is further humiliated when it turns out that the helicopter that rescues him from capture is being piloted by Bison's generals, Vega and Balrog, who tell Seth that it has been Shadaloo pulling the strings from the shadows all along. In the events of Street Fighter IV, Seth orchestrated the World Fighting Tournament to lure in his prey, Ryu, and other fighters whom he can use to complete the Bliss Project. Through various character endings, it is revealed that there are multiple clones similar to Seth, some soulless, others showing flickers of self-awareness. Seth, number 15, the version most players encounter, attempts to rise as the true leader, only to be undone by both Shadaloo and Juri Han, who is something of his own creation, giving her a miniaturized version of the Tandon engine as a replacement for her lost eye. Despite his confidence and belief that he is in control of Juri Han, Seth becomes little more than another pawn in Bison's grander game. In Street Fighter V Champion Edition, Seth returned in a new body, Dole Unit 0, activated by none other than Juri. To her surprise, Seth's mind lived on, imprinted into this fresh shell. The result was a strange fusion, Seth's cunning and arrogance trapped in a more unstable form, prone to errors and delusions. Seth wandered the world, getting into battles where he was convinced he was facing off against Bison, seeing the dictator's shadow in others' use of psycho power. Once again, Seth's brilliance was undone by his obsession. Like Necalli, Seth has not yet appeared in Street Fighter VI, and like Necalli, Seth's reception among fans has been mixed. Some saw him as a cheap boss from Street Fighter IV with a cobbled-together design, a mimic without a strong identity. Others enjoyed the novelty of a fighter who could copy and repurpose moves, an artificial mirror of the entire cast, as well as a hard challenge to overcome. But overall, Seth is remembered less as a grand villain, and more as a curiosity, a construct who sought to be the master, but never escaped being a tool. In their own ways, both Necalli and Seth embody Street Fighter's experiments with monstrosity and ambition, one born of ancient prophecy, the other forged in a laboratory. Neither one found true victory, but their failures reveal something about the series itself, that strength without balance, and hunger without purpose, will always collapse under their own weight. Necalli and Seth stand apart from many of Street Fighter's more celebrated icons. Where others grow through struggle and forge rivalries that define them, these two figures are defined instead by their insatiable appetites. Necalli was the beast who devoured endlessly, but never truly found meaning beyond the gnawing hunger of his gods. Seth was the machine who copied endlessly, yet never discovered an identity beyond his obsession with power, perfection, and Bison. The question of whether these two characters could, or even should, return to the roster is one that sparks different answers depending on who you ask. With Street Fighter VI leaning into its darker themes, most notably psycho power, but also the ever-present Satsui no Hado, the stage is certainly set for both Seth and Necalli to find a place once more. The confirmed ties between these sinister forces, along with new hints from Lilith's story and Ken's descent, suggest fertile ground for Necalli in particular, a banquet of potentially strong souls waiting to be devoured. But if he were to return, Capcom would need to reimagine him as a genuine terror, rather than the squandered threat he became in Street Fighter V. Seth, by contrast, would slip back into the narrative far more easily. His obsession with Bison brings him into natural conflict with Ed and his allies, and with Bison's shadow looming once more, Seth might finally get the confrontation he craves. Now, should they return? That's harder to answer. Seth enjoys stronger ties to Shadaloo, Jury, and Bison, while Necalli has his fans who long to see him restored to the terrifying force he was originally meant to be. Personally, I sit somewhere in the middle. I wouldn't call either character a wasted slot, nor would their return set my heart racing. But I do feel Necalli was poorly handled in Street Fighter V, and for that reason alone, I'd like to see him given another chance. If only one were to come back, however, my money would be on Seth, given his tighter links to the ongoing story. And yet, I can't help but think Necalli's time isn't finished. Perhaps it's not in this chapter of the series, but the next, where characters like Lily and Ken continue to wrestle with their inner demons. Here he may find his true place in the cycle of hunger and despair. If you enjoyed this exploration of Street Fighter's darker legends, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with fellow fans who appreciate the stranger corners of the franchise. And if you'd like to support the channel directly, consider joining my Patreon. Every contribution helps fuel future deep dives into the stories behind the fight. As always, be excellent to yourselves and one another, and I'll see you soon.